What's up, Lakers supporters? It's another episode of the Laker Chisme podcast. I'm your host, Jacob. So first of all, I want to just get into Chick Hearn's birthday that just passed, November 27th. Happy birthday to Chick Hearn. He would have been 103 years old. So I'm glad he was part of the Lakers organization and did his part as a broadcaster and everything he did for the Lakers and their greatness, their continued greatness, like we're seeing this season. Uh, you know, Last time I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago, so a few games have happened, mostly wins, thankfully. But there was that loss on Sunday against the Mavericks, where the Lakers, I think they lost by 14, but their offense just looked off, looked flat, as I've heard described. Um, they couldn't get a lot of plays going, and it kind of looked like they just lost it in the third quarter. So the good news is, you know, now it's Thursday. The Lakers have picked up the next two. They didn't lose a second game like they had told everyone that they don't want to lose two in a row this season, which is a great goal, and I have no doubts that they can achieve all the goals that they're setting early on in the season. I don't have any doubts that they can get them throughout the season and by the end of the season. So aside from that, Anthony Davis has aspirations of being Defensive Player of the Year, and so what you're seeing with the Lakers right now is playing a tremendous amount of defense and also outscoring their opponents. So they're playing really deep, two sides of the court basketball. So they're being very effective on both sides. They're not without their flaws, but they know how to get it done on both ends of the court, and they should, because they have a lot of experience and a few gold medalist winners. Like Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard, LeBron James, just to name a few. Um, but they have a lot of experience. They know how to win. They know it seems like they're turning it up now, throughout November, of course, because that's the first part of the season. But definitely December, they beat the best defensive team in the NBA, the Denver Nuggets, by 105 to 96. So they outscored them by 9. They scored over 100 points, which is, I'm pretty sure, more than what Utah was allowing at that time. But they also held them to less than 100 points. So that's what you call a statement game, because that's what everyone's speculating about before it happens. And of course they're talking shit on the Lakers, like they don't understand what lies ahead. But it's great to watch, because they're setting the tone early in the conference, in the division. So throughout December, of course they beat the Jazz last night on Wednesday. So they beat them, 121 to 96. Again, holding their opponent to under 100 points, meanwhile scoring over 120. So they've done that a few times this season, if you've been watching the games. But a lot of people making these comments or writing these articles aren't watching the games in depth like that. They're just looking at a few highlights and then analyzing the game. So what the Lakers are doing now is they have that. It seems like their arsenal is intact, because now you have Rondo back, playing more like a triple double guard, like Jason Kidd. It's no coincidence the Lakers have Jason Kidd on the coaching staff, seasoning Rondo further, because he's a veteran, he's an NBA champion. So he is your quintessential point guard. That's what you want out of your guard. You want someone who will get you over 10 points, over 10 rebounds, over 10 assists, because then this is what we call load management. It's not sitting on the bench, and that's not a shot, that's reality. It's distributing the responsibilities among your team. So the Lakers with Frank Vogel are now doing that, because everyone's kind of coming back off their injuries. And Avery Bradley's still out as of right now. He's not supposed to come back until, I think he's being reevaluated after the Lakers road trip, which I think they're back at Staples on Sunday against the Timberwolves. So right now, their next upcoming game is against the Blazers in Portland. So even though Portland is kind of struggling right now, it doesn't matter. None of these games matter in that sense. The Lakers are. It seems like they're going in with a clear head for each game and playing them as each game, but kind of turning up the intensity because now the discussion is how the NBA is changing, not only with how it's governed by the commissioner, but how it's ran by the teams, how the agents are more involved in these trades, and also how the tempo, the pace of how these games are running, and also how they're officiated, because that's always a topic of discussion every season. But right now, aside from all that stuff, the Lakers are just putting up big numbers. Back to their game against the Jazz, they put up 51% in field goals. They shot 48%, 14 of 29 from 3-point shooting or from 3-point line. KCP had 14 points in 25 minutes. LeBron had 20 and 12 assists. Rondo had 14, 9 rebounds, and 12 assists. Kuzma had 13 points. As a team, they blocked 12 shots. They had 13 steals. They had 7 turnovers. So that is what they're aiming for and they're achieving because they have a solid game plan. They have a solid coaching staff. It's kind of like they've done away with a lot of the distractions. That's always key to the Lakers because people get caught up in the lights and Hollywood and they want to be in the public eye, but they forget they're on the team to play basketball. Your job is not to do anything. We don't care about what you do outside of that. We care about basketball and winning and getting into the playoffs because we're the ones who are supporting this whole thing. Whether we're good or not, we're still here. So that's kind of my point with all this is that it's great that the Lakers organization has kind of rebuilt and restructured over the course of the summer. So a few people departed, whether it was coaching, management. It seemed like maybe some of the inner turmoil had worn off. And then they started signing people and they're building up this team that hopefully looking long term, hopefully it evolves into a dynasty because winning championships is different than being a dynasty. A dynasty, you can last with the same core, depending on age, you can last 5 years or 3 years. I mean, it could be as short as 3 years, could go 10 years. Like you think of the Spurs, aside from the Lakers, obviously, but recently in recent history, I think of more the Spurs, how their organization was set up. Their coaching, obviously, one of the longest running coaches in the NBA, if he might be the longest, Greg Popovich. But just how the Lakers have restructured and gotten back to fundamentals. That's what they're playing is fundamental basketball, which means you play defense. Defense does not mean you steal every ball, you block every shot. That's not what defense is. Defense, it means you're actively engaged in every play. It doesn't matter if it's your man or someone else's. You always have to rotate on defense because people come off screens, people get a loose ball, there's a rebound. There's all kinds of scenarios. So the Lakers are playing defensive-minded basketball, and that's what's leading to a lot of their offense as far as fast breaks and running in transition because that's one of the Lakers' strong points is the transition game, especially when they have Kuzma. When they have wings, they're running it like a West Coast offense, like a football team, less like a basketball team. So they have their wings, they have people who are going to run, flanks or outs or whatever, however you want to describe it, but it's opening up the floor and it's making it very difficult for teams to defend because they're so worried about one or two players that they forget they have 3 other guys on the floor who are going to do the same thing those 1 or 2 players are going to do. So, it's going to be great to see the Lakers up in Portland on Friday. Then, they're back back at Staples on Sunday against the Timberwolves. So it's going to be a hot season. or it is a hot season. It's going to be a hot month. They're also playing the Bucks, who the Bucks and the Lakers, as of this recording, are tied for 19-3 best records in the NBA. So that could potentially be, NBA Finals matchup. You never know. So thanks again for joining.